Guys, please check on your friends who daily drive V8s. Because we're not doing so good. As of this recording, the average price of a gallon of gas around here is $6.49. And I was spending an average of $600 a month just going back and forth from work, which is only 20 miles. So I went and did something a little drastic, something I never thought I would do in my entire life. I bought an electric car, and today we're gonna talk about it. Yep, I bought an electric car. Let's fire it up, shall we? It's on. What is up, you guys? Matt Mach-E here, aka Desert Chief, only on Driving Lines Chasing Dust. The show that used to just be about off-road, but now we're about on-road and off-road, and now EVs. All right, so let's get into it. I am sitting in my brand new daily driver. This is a 2022 Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. Now, this video is not going to be a review by a gearhead car enthusiast of the new Mach-E GT. No, this video is going to be a review of this car by somebody who's never owned an electric vehicle before. I've never owned an EV. I've never even driven an electric vehicle until I test drove the very car that you're seeing right now. So I'm completely new to this stuff, and really the only reason I started researching these about a month and a half ago was because of these crazy soaring gas prices. Like I mentioned earlier, I was paying upwards of $600 a month just for fuel in my commute, which is only 20 miles. So you can imagine that, you know, a car that gets between 10 and 15 miles per gallon is not going to be really something you want to drive around Southern California right now, or I guess anywhere else if you guys are experiencing the same types of gas prices that I am over here. So that led me to look into alternatives. I first looked at hybrids, I looked at plug-in hybrids, I looked at just more economical full gas powered cars. But you know, there was something that just struck me about the electric vehicle. I don't know what it was. It was just, maybe it's the new technology. It's just the ease of driving that I hear from everybody. And you hear about all these things like, oh yeah, it only takes 40 minutes to charge it to 80%. And they really sell it on you, you know, these people who drive these EVs, mostly the Tesla crowd, you know. I hadn't really met anybody who had this car before I bought it. The Ford Mustang Mach-E kind of stuck out in my head. Obviously, I'm a Mustang guy. In the last couple of videos, you've seen me talk about my Terminator, which is my 03 Ford Mustang Cobra. You know, my first car was a 99 Mustang GT, as I've talked about in other videos. I'm just a Mustang guy, and I don't really have a reason for it. I was just kind of brought up around them, and I built them, you know, when I was younger, and that just happens to be my pony car of choice. So it was really interesting that, you know, out of all the different pony cars out there, Ford is the only one that's making an electric version of this car. And at first, I gotta be honest, I really did not like the way this car looked. I was like, well, who would put 4 doors on a Mustang and make it a crossover SUV type thing? You know, just didn't really connect for me. But the more and more I looked at them, the more I saw some of the ones that were a little bit modified, you know, with wheels and tires and suspension. They started to grow on me a little bit more, seeing them around town. However, one thing that I was really interested in was the performance of the Mach-E, especially the GT model. So what I'm driving now is the GT non-performance. This is, I guess, just one step short of the fastest, you know, biggest, baddest model that they make. So a quick overview on the specs of the non-performance GT. This car has 480 horsepower, 600 foot-pounds of torque, and it does 0 to 60 in about 3.7 seconds. Now, in terms of range, the regular Mach-E, which only has a single motor, by the way, it's only rear-wheel drive, has a 300-mile range. This one here is a all-wheel drive. The GTs and the GT Performance are all-wheel drive. They have dual motors, and that brings the range down to about 270 for this model here. So still not a ton of range on these vehicles, but it's pretty good. 270 miles is a pretty good range. That equates to about a week of commuting for me, a 270-mile range. And I got about to 230 miles before I got too low of a battery percentage to be comfortable with. So I don't know if it gets the full 270. I'm not trying to test that out. 230 miles is the most I've driven this car in a single stint, and it's been just fine with that. So to give you guys a few of my initial impressions of this car, I'm very impressed with it, and I'm becoming more and more impressed with it as I own it. I've had it for about 3 weeks now. I've been daily driving it. I've taken it on a couple of road trips now. 480 horsepower and 600 feet-pound of torque. It's actually faster than my supercharged V8 Terminator. It has a single speed automatic transmission and it's seamless. There's no shifting. It's very, very smooth on the road. I don't think I've ever driven a car this smooth on the road in my life. Probably because of the quietness of an electric vehicle. It's just a different driving experience than a normal gas-powered car. I'm gonna do a couple of pulls for you guys in this video to show you what that's like. I mean, it literally just throws you back into your seat, but it's also paired with something that I've never experienced before, and that is complete silence. I've never felt that kind of speed without hearing a bunch of commotion going on, you know, RPMs flying up, shifting gears, chirping tires. It's a whole different way of driving, and I really like it. It's a great car for daily driver activities, you know, commuting, weekend, going to the beach, you know, doing whatever it is you got to do around town, making stops, you know, running errands. This is a very comfortable car for that sort of thing. I'm really impressed with the utility of it as well. It's got a very big cargo area in the back, plenty of room to put whatever you need to put back there. The back seats do fold down if you need the extra room to put something. I've already moved a couple of very large boxes in the back of this car and they fit just fine. So you get that utility of like a crossover, you know, CUV, like a small SUV. And then you also get the frunk, which is the front trunk. Because there's no engine, there's a big empty space at the front of the car here. And Ford designed this car to look somewhat like a Mustang, which has a very long hood. Most EVs don't really have a very long hood because they just simply don't need that space because there's no engine. But that frunk is really cool, and it also doubles as a cooler because it does have drains at the bottom of it. So Ford's idea was to let you kind of go tailgating. You can put ice in there, put your drinks, keep them cool, and then you just undo the plugs on it and then you can drain it. So that's pretty neat that they added that in there. I've never used it, but I feel like with summer coming up, it's only a matter of time before I fill that thing with ice and a couple of cold drinks to be able to take it to the beach or something like that and enjoy that frunk cooler. So now I want to talk about some of the differences of driving a electric vehicle like this Mustang Mach-E GT versus a regular internal combustion engine. Obviously, the first is you're not stopping at gas stations anymore. Another thing that is new to me on these vehicles is the one pedal drive mode. So I've heard about like regen braking or regenerative braking, which is basically the vehicle slowing down and using that friction or whatever to generate power and add it back to the battery. I don't know how much it helps, but I'm sure it helps the battery a little bit, kind of, you know, recover some of the charge that you just used on the last, you know, acceleration. However, it does feel different driving a one pedal drive vehicle. Fortunately, the Mach-E actually does have the option to turn that off. So if you turn off the one pedal drive, it drives like a normal car. It will coast as soon as you let off the gas pedal, or accelerator, I should say, and it won't brake for you. And you just apply the brakes like a normal car. However, when you have the one pedal drive mode engaged on the Mach-E and you let off the accelerator, it will immediately start to brake for you and it will actually come to a full stop. So it's actually really convenient once you get used to the way that it drives. I rarely use the brakes anymore unless somebody cuts me off or I have to stop instantly for something. I just let the one pedal drive do its thing, and I just have learned how much distance I need to let off at the right time until it comes to a complete stop, you know, at a stoplight or, you know, at a stop sign or something like that. So it's really, really convenient, the one pedal drive mode, and I find myself using it way more often than not. And the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the differences of driving an EV versus a regular internal combustion engine car is there's very, very little maintenance on these things. Obviously, there's no oil to change, there's no fluids. In fact, the only fluid in this entire car is the windshield washer fluid. Before I get into some of the details about charging these electric cars, I want to say that I don't think electric cars are the way of the future for everybody out there. I'm not one of those people who owns an electric car and kind of looks down on everybody else and says you should own one too. I don't think everybody needs one of these. I don't think it works for everybody, especially right now. There's a lot of nuances and a lot of things that people don't really realize when they buy an electric car, that, you know, this type of vehicle is not going to be the right kind of vehicle for most people out there. But for me, it did work very well as a daily driver. Now, in terms of charging this car, you have a couple of options. Ford gives you an at-home plug-in charger when you buy the car. It has a plug on it for a 110 volt outlet and then another plug on it for a 220 or 240 volt outlet. However, I'm going to let you know that if you plan to use the 110 volt charger that comes with this car and just plug it into your garage every night and try to charge this, it takes 96 hours to charge this battery from 0 to 100%. That's 4 days. Another option is you can buy Ford's optional connected home charging system. It's about $800. It requires professional installation, and yes, it does use a higher voltage than your regular 110 wall outlet, and that will charge your car in about 10 hours overnight, from 0 to 100%. So that's a better option if you have the means of being able to install that in your house. But for a lot of people who live in apartments or they don't have a garage nearby that they can plug into, that's not a good option for them either. The other option is using the charging stations around town. My office actually has chargers at it. So in the mornings, I'll roll into the office, park in one of the EV charging spaces, which is usually empty, so that's always cool too. I get to park up front, plug in the car, go do, you know, my work for, you know, 6 to 8 hours at the office, and then when I'm done, I just unplug it and I get back on the road and head home. So it's very easy for me to top off the battery every day while I'm at work, and then usually by Friday I have a full battery to be able to go out on the weekends and do what I gotta do, and then by Monday I'm usually down to about 20 or 30%, and I'll charge it when I get into the office Monday morning. So with my life the way it is, and where I live and all these other chargers that are around here, it makes a lot of sense. But for a lot of people in a lot of places that they live, there aren't a lot of chargers out there for them. So I don't think electric vehicles make sense for everybody out there. But if you live in Southern California and you have an office or somewhere that you can park nearby that you can charge, it makes a lot of sense. But if you plan on charging your car around town, you're gonna be paying a little bit more for it. So I don't really know what the cost of charging this at home would be. I assume it's probably less than charging it around town. But to give you an idea of what it costs to charge this, from about 10% to 80% on a fast DC charger, it costs somewhere right about 17 to 20 bucks. And that gets you a range of about 200 miles. So not too bad. 200 miles of range for about 17 bucks is better than any of my other gas-powered vehicles. So I really do enjoy having those fast chargers around. Now, if you're using a non-fast charger like the one I have in my office, it will add about 15%, 20% charge over a 6-hour period. And that costs about $3.50. So the charge is not being delivered as quickly. It's kind of a slower trickle charge. Not quite as slow as doing it at home, but it is slower than a fast DC charger. But it has the benefit of only costing you about $2 or $3 while you're at the office or wherever you're at. So for me, you know, it works really well to use those slow chargers because they add more percentage than I use on my commute. So it kind of leaves me in a little bit of a surplus of battery charge every day when I go to work. But if your commute is super long and you only have one of those slow chargers at your destination or at work, then that could be a problem because you're just going to be cutting into your battery more and more, and you'll eventually have to go charge it fully somewhere else to get back to work the next day. So it's a little bit different. So that's why I like to say that this car makes sense for me and it doesn't make sense for everybody out there. So we're getting pretty close to the destination here. I wanted to give you guys a couple of pulls in this thing, but you know, I don't even know if that makes any sense because it's just dead quiet in here. I mean, it's pretty fast. You can see how it just threw me into my seat. I mean, overall, I gotta say, I'm very impressed with this car. It has the sporty feel of a Mustang, super fast, really nice tight turns with the all-wheel drive system. It's got the utility of a small SUV, having 5 seats and 4 doors, a big cargo area in the back, 1 in the front. And, you know, it's really, really economical. It makes a lot of sense for me to spend $10 to $15 a week on, you know, getting back and forth to work versus $600 a month in just gas. I don't see gas prices coming down anytime soon, so it makes a lot of sense. But I gotta say, my favorite thing about this car is pulling up next to an unassuming V8, like let's say, you know, a 392 Charger or Challenger or something, or maybe even another Mustang GT with a Coyote in it, and just kind of being dead silent like a shark. And as soon as that light turns green, you just hit it. Oh man, that just feels like a jet. It is unlike anything I've ever driven before. It is absolutely amazing. I mean, you just instant torque. Unlike that was 70 miles an hour from 20. Just incredible. From a roll, you know, or from a dig all the way up to about 60 to 70 miles an hour, it just pulls so hard. Incredibly hard. I've never felt a car like this in my entire life. And having the all-wheel drive means that you're not going to be sitting there spinning at the light. It just hooks and goes. Now, the last thing I want to address on this car is the amount of hate. Yes, straight up hate that this car gets. I don't know why. A lot of people out there really hate this car. And the biggest complaint I hear is, why did Ford call it the Mustang? You know, coming from a Mustang guy, I gotta say, at first I was skeptical. But then once I drove it, I really started to understand why they included this in the Mustang line. I think that this car belongs in the Mustang name more so than the EcoBoost 4-cylinder Mustang or even the V6 Mustang. It's got a lot of performance in it that makes it a perfect example of what the Mustang can be in the future. I think that Ford did a really good job building this car. The build quality is perfect. The interior is amazing. It's so nice, so much nicer than a Tesla. It's actually more comfortable to drive than a regular Mustang, and it actually drives better in my opinion. Being all-wheel drive, you can take this in the rain, you can take it in the snow, you know, if you have the right tires on it. It's a really nice overall platform, and I'm really happy that they included it and they didn't listen to all the haters out there. So if you eliminate the gas bill out of the equation and just add in some of the very small amounts that I pay for charging this car, I'm still saving money overall than if I were making the payment on the Ranger and paying for the gas that I needed to get back and forth to work. So that's why this car makes sense for me, and it's a lot of fun. I want to thank you guys for coming along on this trip with me today, showing you guys my new 2022 Mach-E GT. If you guys have any questions or comments, please drop it below, and subscribe to Driving Line if you don't already. It's a great channel. We do a lot of different content about all different kinds of cars and trucks, SUVs on this channel here. And now I'm going to be adding a little bit more EV content in the channel as well through Chasing Dust. So be on the lookout for more EV content on this channel as I kind of build this car out a little bit and make a few modifications and stuff. So that's going to be coming up pretty soon. But for right now, I'm all charged up and ready to go for the weekend. Thanks for watching, you guys. This is your pal Matt McAdam, aka Desert Chief, only on Driving Lines Chasing Dust, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching Driving Line. If you guys like this video, consider subscribing to our channel so you'll never miss any of the content we create here. Whether you're into trucks, Jeeps, imports, domestic vehicles, or anything in between, we are here to fuel your passion. So hit that subscribe button and we'll see you guys next time.